Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Hog Talk podcast, presented to you by FanDuel, live from the Sterling's Open Roastery Studios, part of the Believe in Buzz Radio Network, where you can hear us each week on 106.7 Buzz 2 in Central Arkansas. All live shows are presented to you by Arkansas Brewing Company in downtown Ozark. I am Porter Hayes. Alongside me always is Adam Hall. And on tonight's show, we are joined by Travis Brown of KBTX Sports to go over the Texas A&M game. Travis, I really appreciate your time today. How's everything going?
Hey, anytime, guys. It's going pretty good. Real excited for this matchup. It's always fun when the Aggies and the Hogs get together. There something crazy always happens.
Yeah, and we had the Vol Bros on last week about the Tennessee game, and I really want to start off with just the first question we asked them. You know, Texas A&M's coming into this game number 4 team in the country, and it's a 7.5-point spread. Did that surprise you when the opening spread come out that, you know, Texas A&M is only a 7.5-point favorite coming into this game with Arkansas?
No, not at all. Kind of going back to what I said, I know this game's been at AT&T Stadium forever, but it always seemed like no matter what the records were, no matter what the rankings were, the game always was close. Something always happened late in the fourth quarter to ultimately seal it, or something wild happened that you hadn't seen before. And so if I'm picking this game, no matter if it's at a neutral site or at a home and home, I'm always going to say it's going to be a close one, because I mean, for at least for the A&M side of things, when in the first 10 years the Aggies were in the SEC, there wasn't necessarily a natural rival in the SEC. You could almost say that A&M fans at the time were probably still more concerned about what was happening in the Texas game or the Texas Tech game or kind of the old Big 12. But as they grew into the conference, Arkansas was probably the first real rivalry that squared up, just because of the history and the proximity and everything like that. So and it's grown into something. I think when this could be a whole nother conversation, but the annual opponents for A&M should probably have been LSU, Texas, and Arkansas. But you know, there's a lot that goes into that matrix. But anyway, a long story short, no, I think that this game is one that you throw out the records, because usually it's pretty close.
With all the coaching changes that have happened over, the past few years for both teams, obviously regime change with Jimbo Fisher leaving, Bobby Petrino leaving. Is there much, or what talk is there now about Bobby Petrino getting back the helm, interim head coach, playing Texas A&M?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some familiarity there for sure amongst A&M fans, but not a whole lot of familiarity, because it was just that one season. More of the conversation that year was just about who was going to have the louder voice in the rooms, Petrino or Jimbo Fisher, and the offense did improve that season, but it wasn't enough to, of course, keep Jimbo Fisher's job. Petrino goes to Arkansas. The rest is history. So I think there is some familiarity, but maybe not attachment. But I do think that the bigger national story, the fact that just Bobby Petrino is back, the head coach, the CEO of the program, is certainly something that has raised eyebrows, not only here, but across the country. It's time is a flat circle, right?
Mm-hmm. So what are some differences you've seen? Of course, you know, Bobby's first tenure here, then Texas A&M, and now he's kind of taken over the head coaching role, interim tag per se, this year. What are some differences that you got to see during that Tennessee game that kind of stick out that you think could cause Texas A&M some problems?
Well, I think the biggest thing just in Arkansas's season as a whole, and just knowing a Bobby Petrino offense, talking to people who know of his offense and of his mindset and strategies, I think the biggest thing is just he's going to take shots. He's going to take shots. He's going to look for the big play. This is an A&M defensive secondary that's been tested a little bit, but not maybe last week against Florida was probably one of the bigger secondary tests. And if you used some tempo against this A&M secondary, you can move the ball against them a little bit. And so I think that's going to be an interesting aspect of this. But to me, you know, I'm sure, as y'all know and have talked about, Petrino's coaching for this job. He wants this job. And I think with the guys that they have, especially on offense, they might not win a whole lot more games with the defense they have, but they can put up a lot of numbers, a lot of yards, and potentially a lot of points against some good defenses. And I think that's a way to sell yourself as a head coach in this program with a roster that the defensive at least side of the roster that you only had a little bit of a part of. So I look for Petrino maybe to take some shots, maybe take some risks, maybe try for a few fourth downs, some things like it kind of go for broke a little bit in this game, because if you can put up some numbers, offensive numbers against this A&M defense, spells pretty good for your short-term resume.
What can we expect to see last year's game versus this year's game with Marcel Reed? Last year he completed 11 for 22 for a little over 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. What improvement has he had since last season?
It's multiple fold. I mean, I think the overarching theme is he's a better passer this year. He's a much better passer. I think the system that they've built is tailored to him a little bit more. Of course, Connor Wegman was the starter out of camp last year. He had injury struggles, then eventually lost the job as the season went on. But that was an offensive system that was tailored a little bit more to Connor Wegman, who can move a little bit, but was a little bit more of a traditional pocket passer than maybe Marcel Reed was. I think they have a great offense built around his skill set and around the skill set of his complementary weapons. The thing I've said about Marcel from the start of the season is this year, with the weapons they have on offense at wide receiver, tight end, the running backs, and even the offensive line, who carried over a lot of continuity from last year, he doesn't have to be elite. He just needs to be a good game manager and take care of the ball. He can be elite. He has that in him, and he has the ability he has that ceiling in his inside of him, but he doesn't need to be elite this year. He needs to be a Kellen Mond from 2020 who took care of the ball, moved the chains, scored some points, had a pretty good offense. At times, he's been electric. I mean, look at the first play of the game against Florida. They did that little play action pass to Mario Craver over the top, got them within the 8, and 2 plays, they scored. And that was a really good setup. But the deep ball, if there's been one struggle in his game, it's been the deep ball. They tried to go play action pass on 3rd and short a lot against Mississippi State early in the game. He was overthrowing a lot of those balls, started 1 for 7 on passes 15 yards or more in that first half. But that also kind of made the defense play that a little bit more and opened up the intermediate game, the running game, in the second half. So I think a tip of the cap to Marcel Reed for the way he's been able to improve this offseason, but also a tip of the cap to Colin Klein, because they've really structured an offense around some of his skill sets.
And going back through the rankings, we're in a different world where now we're at 12, potentially 16. Texas A&M comes in ranked 4th, and if you look at the history, it seems like they always get to that cusp of 6, 5, and then a letdown happens. Go back to 21, where week 4 they were ranked 7th, then dropped a game. They went to 15th. What's the mindset of, this is a game? I wouldn't call it a trap game, because what you're getting yourself into with Texas A&M and Arkansas. From a ranking standpoint, you could kind of see this as a trap game because the importance of it. So what is the mindset from now into the end of the season, keeping your head on straight, knowing you have a big, huge opportunity not only to come in the SEC, but get a huge seed when it comes to the college football playoff rankings?
Yeah, so 2016 is the best comparison, because that was Kevin Sumlin second to last year. It was Trevor Knight. It was Travion Williams in the running back. They started out 6-0, had a big win over ranked Tennessee. They lost one to Alabama, who was number 1 that year, but ended up going into a Mississippi State game 7-1. And they were ranked number 4 in the first college football playoff poll of that season. And then Trevor Knight gets hurt. They lose 2 in a row to both the Mississippi schools, and it winds up being an 8-4 season. Anyways, after such a competitive start. And so I think that was probably the best comparison. And because it was the last time A&M has started 6-0, there's been a lot of talk and thought back to that 2016 team. On the other hand, you have Mike Elko in here who has talked a lot over the last year and a half about kind of exercising some of the demons that the program has had, whether it's culture problems within the program early coming off of Jimbo Fisher's regime. You have the long stretch where they hadn't won a road SEC game, and then they were able to go out and win at Florida early in the season last year. And then coming into this year, they hadn't won a ranked non-conference road game since I think it was 1979. And then they go and beat Notre Dame at Notre Dame Stadium. And they haven't minced words about the fact that they're kind of trying to talk about exercising demons and doing things that A&M teams of the past haven't been able to accomplish. And for the most part, so far, they've been successful. That next big hurdle is finishing all the way to the end of the season. They had an opportunity to still kind of do that last year. If they would have beat Texas in that final game, they could have gone to their first SEC championship game, but fell short in that game and didn't finish the season. The whole mantra of the offseason has been finish, finishing drives, finishing games, and ultimately finishing the season. And that's going to be a hard push through the rest of these final games.
What would one thing for Texas A&M's offense and one thing for their defense that they need to do Saturday to beat Arkansas?
Often, I'll start defense. I mean, the thing they've been the best at this year is getting into the backfield to either sack the quarterback or tackles for loss. The defensive front has been excellent. Cassius Howell leads the SEC in sacks with 7, on pace to have what could be a record-breaking year for A&M if he keeps up this pace, which is impressive because one of the big question marks and the talking points leading into the season is how is A&M going to replace a defensive line that lost 3 guys to the NFL, and Nick Scorton, Shamar Turner, and Shamar Stewart. And they've been able to do that, and arguably I think they've been better this year at both stopping the run and getting into the backfield. So I think affecting the quarterback by getting pressure on him, getting in the backfield for tackles for loss, constantly making teams work from behind the chains has been the success on defense. And stopping a dual threat quarterback is something that has not been A&M's strong suit in years past. And that'll be another one of those demons that they can maybe exercise this week. So I think that's the biggest focus on the defensive side on the ball. On offense, it's going to be they've been just so balanced on offense. I think they were good last week in the penalty factor. The penalties, the 3 games before the Florida game, they really struggled. They were at 9 or above penalties. You look back at the Auburn game, that was finished 16-10, but A&M had 400 yards of offense. It should have been a blowout game for that offense because they looked really good if it wasn't for the fact that they were taking a number of holding penalties and some personal fouls and things like that. So if there's one thing that can derail a really, really potent A&M offense, it's penalties. Now, against Florida, they only had 4. There's been all kinds of things instituted. Mike Elko has talked about the Coaches Cabo Fund, a little kind of kangaroo court paying system that might go towards a vacation for the coaches' wives at the end of the year. Mm-hmm. And then even little side things too, where he worked out deals with some of his starters that they can have golf cart shuttles to their cars after the game if they win and they have 4 or less penalties. I believe they finished with 3 actually against Florida. So penalties would be the main thing to watch out on A&M offensively.
And you looking at the remaining schedule for A&M, and it is brutal. And you're starting a 3-game stretch with Arkansas. Then you go to Baton Rouge at Missouri. You got 2 home games, South Carolina and Sanford. And then you end the regular season at Texas. Where would you put this Arkansas game as the difficulty of this game compared to the rest of the games on the season?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it's the SEC. It's both a really tough end of the schedule, and yet they're not playing Ole Miss, Arkansas, Georgia, any of those other ranked teams. I mean, LSU and Missouri are the 2 other ranked teams. I think if you want to look at we'll kind of carve Texas out as its own thing at the end. That's like a pre-post season for the Aggies because there's so much that goes into that game that it's not even necessarily like a normal game. So we'll kind of put that off to the side. But of these next 3 games, which is going to be the toughest stretch of the season, I think Missouri is the one that raises my eyebrows the most because of what they've been able to do on offense. LSU, they've had a strong defense. That offense can't necessarily move the ball at all. Yes, it's a night game in Baton Rouge. That there's something to that, but I think if at least in the 2 games, the one that has my interest the second most is probably this Arkansas game, just because of the unknowns of going to Fayetteville, how A&M is going to handle that. There's weather concerns. We've talked about the matchups, how crazy things always happen. It's a really, really, really good offense that Bobby Petrino has there. So I think there is. I put it probably there number 2 behind Missouri as ones that intrigue me the most heading on. If you want to let's not even talk about the Texas game, like we said, because that's its own thing.
I know the players are always prepared for, an injury, somebody going out, next man up. Is there any drawback to Reuben Owens being on his own without Moss, or he's ready to go? He's ready to take the full load?
Yeah. So if there's one group that can sustain injuries on this A&M squad, it's the running backs. They came in with more running backs than they knew what to do with. Actually, I might take that back. A&M has more tight ends when they know what to do with, which is weird, and especially in this day and age of college football. But running backs is also up there. Reuben Owens has been great. Le'Veon Moss has had issues with staying in games going all the way back to midway through last season. In fact, if you want to think about the Arkansas game last year at AT&T, he was out for the majority of the middle 2 quarters of the game. It came back in and closed the game out in the 4th quarter. It was dealing with some stomach, some kind of anxiety-related issues. I think, as we've been told, that's kind of continued a little bit in this year, compounded on coming back from a pretty catastrophic knee injury, and then little bumps and bruises he's picked up. He hasn't been able to be the feature back for A&M really in any game this season. So Reuben Owens is taken a just about as many carries or been in as many important situations as Le'Veon Moss has. So I think he's certainly up to that task and he can handle it. But behind him, they have Amari Daniels, who was basically the feature back last season when Le'Veon went out and has a lot of experience. They have E.J. Smith, son of Emmett Smith, who hasn't been utilized a lot, but was an experienced running back coming out of Stanford 2 years ago, and it kind of is become their backup closer back. They put him in for the 4-minute drill at the end of the game against Florida last week to help run down the clock, and he was able to continually move the chains then with his kind of IQ and his power rushing ability. And then Jamari Morrow is the true freshman who probably is the number 3 guy behind Reuben Owens now this season with what he's been able to do in practice. And they've made sure to get him out there and to get him some reps. A lot of times in like a pony set, a 2-back set, he's caught his first receiving touchdown last week. And so I think you'll see a lot of Jamari Morrow in this game as a true freshman, kind of being his first, a little bit of a debutante performance for him. But Reuben Owens has been very, very good this year, and I don't think the running game is going to struggle. And then on top of that, you have Marcel Reed, who can run the ball. They've demonstrated that they like to use Casey Concepcion and Mario Craver in the jet sweep run game, and they did that a lot against Mississippi State. And then you have the short passing game, the RPO game, with bubble screens to Concepcion and Craver and Terry Bussey, and they use that as kind of a de facto run game on the first 2 games of the season when UTSA and Utah State were loading the box against this backfield, thinking that they were going to be pretty run heavy. So running game, establishing the short yardage, I don't think has really ever been a problem for this team this year. And I don't think I really don't. Le'Veon's a great player. I think they built the depth that they won't necessarily miss him all that much.
And knowing, coming into this game, one of the few downsides of Arkansas has been, of course, their 1-score record, not being able to hold onto the ball, and then their second half scoring. So, they come out, scored 14 points in the 4th quarter last week against Tennessee. Does that kind of cause any pause of or concern of knowing that, okay, these guys have really kind of figured out how to get things going in the fourth quarter. We have to make sure we take control of the turnover game and this one score game cloud that's hanging over Arkansas.
A&M's been really good in the fourth quarter defensively. That's probably, I don't know the stats. I need to go and look them up, but anecdotally, they've been really, really good in the second half and the fourth quarter. Actually, the times that they've been the most vulnerable has been scripted series. The first series of the games, first series of the second half, when the opposing offense kind of knows what they're doing going into everything. They've been put on their heels a few times. That Auburn game started a little slow defensively. The UTSA game started a little slow defensively. The Florida was able to just march absolutely down the field with tempo. I would not be surprised. I haven't watched every series of Arkansas this year close enough to know if Arkansas has tried to do any tempo this year, but tempo has been effective against this A&M defense that relies so much on the pass rush. And so if they can't give those defensive front guys either some rotation or a chance to catch their breath, they haven't been able to get hit home quite as much, and that has made the secondary have to be more relied upon, and they can move the ball sometimes against that. So tempo would definitely be a factor. But like I said, the second half has actually been really strong for the A&M defense. They've usually grown into games, and so I think if Arkansas is going to hang close in this one, it's probably going to be early in the game that they're going to put some points up and then have to try to, milk some time off the clock and defend the lead.
I got a question here from DP. He wants to know, is there a reason why Reed isn't running the ball as much this year?
Yeah, that's something that we've noticed and talked about too. I think the fact of the matter comes down that he hasn't needed to. It's great when you have that kind of weapon, and he's proven at times that's been effective. But they have a great running back core. They've been able to use the short passing game to kind of do what some of those RPO quarterback runs would do. And so if you don't need it, why put your quarterback in that kind of risk of taking that kind of a hit? They haven't needed it. And then the other factor is he's become a better passer. He's been better at working through his progressions and standing in the pocket and waiting for plays to develop. And so it hasn't been one read, tuck and run as it was sometimes last year. He's working his way through his progressions and finding targets to hit to make a little bit bigger plays. So he hasn't needed to rely on the scramble as much. I think it's a positive more than a defect maybe of this offense this year. But who knows, with Le'Veon out, if the running game does seem to stall out a little bit, or they can't connect on that short passing game, the RPO game, looking for him to use his legs could open up. It's always a factor there. I just think that the games haven't necessarily called to need it yet.
And I know things haven't, we'll get you out of here on this one. Things haven't bode too well with Arkansas this year, but on that aspect, just how close the Memphis game, Ole Miss, Tennessee game, what kind of statement do you think it would make from the A&M side of things if they come into Fayetteville and win this 14, 17 points, or even if it does kind of get out of hand, 21 points? What kind of statement do you think that will send to the team, knowing that other opponents have really struggled against Arkansas in these one-score games?
I think A&M hung with – it took a last-second play to beat Notre Dame, who came in and did what they did against Arkansas. And so I think there's going to be – Notre Dame is going to be fighting for one of those playoff spots. This could be a good comparative game when it comes down to the line for a good number of those teams. I don't know, man. The funny thing is I don't necessarily see this. Maybe I'm reading into this a little bit wrong. I see this a little bit kind of like the Vegas sees it. And I think my prediction that I put on our podcast this week was like 45-40. I can see this one going down to the wire with Bobby Petrino putting the defense in situations that they may not see again this year, because he is coaching for this job and kind of playing with house money a little bit at this season. Probably wants to go out there and beat the Aggies and put up a good showing in his first time there at Fayetteville, put up some fireworks. I think this is a game where lined up for crazy things to happen. And so I think for as good as A&M's defense has been, and I think as good as they will continue to be, like I said, they could be put in some situations they haven't seen yet, and it could cause some problems for them. The thing that I'm the most excited about in this whole matchup is third downs. I think third downs are going to be electric. A&M's defense comes in having only allowed 2 third down conversions in the last 3 games. That's 2 for 32 in the last 3 games. They're number 1 in the nation in third down defense. Arkansas is converting on offense at like a 50% rate, and they're number 6 in the nation. Like, something's got to give there. I don't know what it's going to be, but I think it's going to be electric, and that might be a big portion of who wins this game, is who can win that little individual battle, because both teams are so good at either side of that margin, and actually not very good at the other side of that margin. So I think those third down situations could be really fun to watch in this game.
Yeah, adding on to that, it's got to be scary, since what you're getting out of Bobby Petrino, but when he's come out and said he's running a base defense, you do not know what you're getting out of this defense. And there was a time where Tennessee could have put the game away, and the defense found a way to keep it close and really had some really good defensive stands. So coming into this game, it's going to be interesting. And then throw the weather, what lightning delays, how those go. So it's going to be a tricky game for Texas A&M, and we hope for the best.
Yeah, well, and Mike Elko mentioned on his radio show last night that they kind of don't really have a way to scout for Arkansas's defense, because new coordinator, different things going on within the program as they've kind of shifted head coaching situations there. That he said it's going to be a lot more adapting on the fly than scouting before, and that's going to be a new situation. It's be something that they're not necessarily used to. So that could also present some challenges for the offense, and it'll be something really interesting to watch.
Well, Travis, we really appreciate your time. Again, Travis Brown of KBTX Sports. We had you on last year talking about the game, and it's always fun having you on for the Texas A&M game. Hope to have you on in the future, but you're traveling up. Be careful for the game, and hope you have a good time.
Yep, we'll see you up there. It'll be actually one of the last SEC stadiums to cross off my bingo card, since we didn't have those home and home. So excited to go up there and see the atmosphere.
There you go, man. Thank you, sir.
You got it.
That was Travis Brown again of KBTX Sports, giving us a preview of the Texas A&M game. And what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick commercial break, hear a word from our sponsor. And when we come back, we'll break down the conversation with Travis and then talk some Arkansas basketball. But the line via FanDuel still sitting at 7.5, over under 61.5. So we'll see how weather plays into that, everything. But we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. Looking to enhance your home's curb appeal? Look no further than Vision Exteriors. As your trusted roofing, siding, and exterior experts, we're here to transform your property. Our skilled team ensures your job is not only functional, but also aesthetically pleasing. Along with roofing, we also offer window, gutter, and siding installation to boost your home's appearance with our quality options. Visit us at www.visionexteriors.com or call us at 479-397-4770. Let's make your vision a reality. And welcome back to the Hog Talk podcast, presented to you by FanDuel. And great conversation with Travis as always. Love his insight, telling me this. And it's funny, we have these games again for the second week in a row. When we had Ball Bros on, now we have Travis Brown on. You wouldn't think that Texas A&M's thinking that they're coming in treating this like it's a top 10 game. And I guess that says a lot about how they respect Bobby Petrino. And then, of course, they don't know what Arkansas is going to do on defense. So, trying to scheme against a new coordinator and a new defensive outlook, that kind of gives Arkansas some hope of we might have a chance in this game.
Gives them a little bit of hope, and it's something that they need to take that and run with it. I think a big thing in this game, and whether Vegas thinks this or others, like we've talked about the last 2 weeks also, these games are always weird, these two games against A&M and Tennessee. So this is something that I think that has a little bit to do with it, and the opposing teams not being overly confident and overly cocky heading into this game, because you never know what's going to happen, whether it's an inadvertent fumble, a punt, a fake punt return, or, ran in for a touchdown, whatever the case may be. But Coach Petrino kind of said it in the presser on what Arkansas needs to do in this, and I'll play that clip right quick and we'll touch on it.
We need to go out and play a good football game. We got to be able to run the ball. They're a very difficult team to run the ball against. We've got to get to third down and short, third and medium, and convert those, keep the football, and eliminate big plays. Last week we were able to play really good third down defense, and that helped us get off the field, but we still gave up too many explosive plays, so we're going to work hard at that.
Yeah, that's something too. Bringing up him talking about the third downs, needing to get it to third and short, third and manageable. This is going to be one I don't see either team in this necessarily having their way on third downs. I think it's just going to be a battle back and forth. I think that Arkansas is going to get stopped some, and I think that at the same time they're going to convert some, and it's going to go one way or the other in the end for either team.
Yeah, and Transplant Texas wanting to know game forecast. I'm been following Scott Covert. If you're not following Scott Covert, Zachary Hall, Garrett Lewis, all of them, they know rain's coming. They just don't know when. And pretty much he put out a report saying 7 a.m. to say 7 p.m. So that just tells you, and that's a thing. It's not like a normal rain where okay, this is coming in at 3. It could affect this quarter. You don't know when it's coming in until. So you're going to have somebody on top of that. And how Arkansas has struggled holding onto the ball, and the fourth quarter defense, you kind of want this rain to kind of hold off as long as possible. But my worry is if we get that lingering rain, you come into the fourth quarter when it's key moments in the game, and we know how this goes. It's prone for that timely turnover or something happens I just have a eerie feeling that weather is going to affect this game some way, somehow. It might affect Arkansas. It might help them out in a way, but I just have an eerie feeling the way they're running the ball, both teams, weather's going to play a major role in this game.
And this is something, if this game is rainy, the field's wet, if this is one of those that out of everybody, Taylon's got to hold on to the ball.
Mm-hmm.
This is a game that you could essentially, we talked about it last year, go out and shock the world. And I've not ever used that in the sense thinking that that's what they need to do or that's what's going to happen or whatever. But this is a game, you've got the number 4 team coming to Fayetteville. We're finally getting Texas A&M in Fayetteville because, when we had the COVID season, we had to go down to Texas A&M when it was Arkansas's home game, which was kind of a little bit irritating in that sense. But this is something that, you were right there against Tennessee. You can't let this one get out of hand. I don't think this is a game that you want to, with the way Texas A&M's defense is, I don't think that this is a game that you want to get down double digits.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And to answer the question, yeah, you can't sit there and say that the way they've been turning over the ball and late in the game, turning the ball over, weather does give the advantage to Texas A&M. But I really want to go back to what DP said in his question. Why is Reed not running the ball as much? Another thing is, watch this be the game that they just open him up.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, you've seen, we joked about, well, he's not the backup now, so he might not hurt Arkansas as much. But, you look at this schedule, you look at what Texas A&M has. They don't have a daunting schedule ahead of them. Yes, they have to go play LSU at night the week after this, then at Missouri, South Carolina. A lot of people sleeping on them still. That's still a tough game. Yes, it's at Kyle Field, but it's an early game. Then you have Sanford, kind of a gimme game before the Texas game at night in Austin. So, this is another thing where I give A&M the advantage because they are ranked 4th now. They know that I know they give Arkansas a lot of respect, but when you're looking at the games on the road, you're looking at South Carolina, they're looking at this as probably one of the easiest defenses they have left on the schedule. So they're coming into this game knowing it's going to be a close game. They're knowing that their position in the college football playoff is very important. So all signs are leading to A&M on this, and we've predicted this, but we'll see what happens. But Reed, I mean, I just think that they're going to use him a lot more running the ball than anything this game.
Yeah, and when he was, we're talking about the running and that question came up, that's what first thought was, that this is going to be the game that he opens it up.
Yeah.
And this is something that we're dealing with Reed the starter. We're not dealing with Reed the backup. So you hope that in that sense Arkansas does well, because we never seem to do well against backup quarterbacks. But we do want to thank Transplanted Texan here for the raffle update. Yes, it is at $4,560 jackpot. Winner gets half of that. So
how many of those pettyback shirts could you get with that money?
Oh, well, it depends on if T-Public's having their sale or not. But
yeah,
pretty penny, and I would send several in a care package up to Fayetteville.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as long as they're still available and they don't claim them before.
Well, there's always a possibility that Friday morning after we do a show, something will be removed. So I would say if you wanted to get your Pettybacks shirt or your Adam Special, the Petty AF shirts, do it before they get pulled down. But It is what it is. This weekend, though, I mean, I don't know. None of us know if it's going to be a constant rain. I just kind of expect it to be one of those start and stop annoyances the entirety of the game. You hope that there's not lightning delays, but it's one of those things that will tell. And for all we know, with the way Arkansas weather is, it's going to be bright and sunny come kickoff time. So who really knows what's going to happen until we get up there on Saturday.
Yeah, this game, it's one of those where now the defense again has had another week to really learn their roles, learn their because you had a week to get ready for Tennessee, but you're building off of that. You're actually being able to game plan for another team, opposed to spending a week on learning what you're going to be doing differently and then game plan for Tennessee. Now you really get to build on that. So that's another thing is, does Arkansas switch things up? Do they try to bring more pressure? Do they try to disguise some blitzes or try to throw A&M off their game? And coming into this, I guess that would be the biggest advantage of, I know it's the weak side of the ball, but them not knowing what Arkansas is going to throw at them on defense, you have a halftime to adjust. But when you're coming in not knowing at all what they're going to do to you, that right there helps out the Arkansas, because if they can hold on to the ball and limit themselves to just one turnover, Arkansas has a really good chance in the game and it's tough. I got to see more from the defense. I'm not calling an Arkansas win, but they have a chance because they have been close, and everything they went through with Tennessee, where the wheels were falling off and they were right there with Tennessee, you can't not say on the other side that they don't have a chance to win this game.
It's one of those that I think, obviously it's only been one game with Coach Petrino, and it was a close game. You fought back from down 17. It's one of those things, though, that there's, game by game, there's going to be fewer and fewer chances to prove yourself for this position. And it's one of those that I can't just go off of what you did when you're here previously.
Yeah.
So what is this team going to do from here till the end of the season to get him the victories that he needs to secure this? Because I'm in that boat that if he doesn't win X amount of games, whether it's 3, whether it's 4, I look at it like you're going to end up just being the fallback plan. Yeah. You're not going to be the prime candidate. So, it's just one of those that, what is this team going to do to put Coach Petrino in that position?
Yeah. And, you got to go to the flip side. What happens to the morale of this team? What happens to the fan base? Everybody's high on Bobby Petrino if they lose yet another one-score game, or if you see a digression in the defense and they kind of let this thing be a 17-21 point game, how does that change things? What does that do for the morale of the team of, all right, rah, we're going to go out here and play our hearts out. Then you come out in this Texas A&M game and it goes a different way. Does the wheels start falling off again?
It's a strong possibility. And you just hope that we don't see that defeat on the players of just giving up. We've seen it before. I'd rather not see it again. It's one of those things that this game, I haven't had the highest hopes for, and it's not necessarily gotten any better. I will say that after the Tennessee game and seeing the comeback that came up short, we did see that fight in them. So you just have to take last week, build off of it. It's new week, new opponent. What can you do to put it together for 4 quarters?
Yeah, and we'll see. Kickoff 3:15 ESPN, I believe. 2:30. Sorry, 2:30 ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
Again, before we wrap up this part of the portion of the second segment, 7.5 point underdog. So they're looking at it with a pretty even game. So we'll see what happens, and hopefully, we're talking about a miracle. That's the thing is, what if they win this game? That's another thing. What's going to happen if you finally get this game in the Missouri games, that 2 games that you just can't seem to win on a regular basis. So if Arkansas pulls this off, the Bobby Petrino train is going to be barreling down the hill.
100%. And this is something that I just hope, if anything goes awry, that it's on Texas A&M side. Whatever, Superman goal line fumble, let Marcel be the one to do it.
Well, switching things over to basketball, I know we're all caught up in football season, but Arkansas had their scrimmage down in Hot Springs. Coach Cal spoke with the media. Basketball season's right around the corner. I think they have their exhibition on Friday. So, you know what? Hey, if things don't go the way, basketball's right here, right next to the corner. So that you have something to look forward to. But I got something out of, Coach Cal, and he was talking about his team. You heard some good things, but I really sense that he's trying to downplay this team. He is taking this, 15th, they ranked 15th or 12th in the country 14th. In the AP, 14th in the HP poll. I think he's trying to downplay this team a little bit because they're going to be explosive. Not saying they shouldn't be a top 10 team. I think where they're ranked is fair because in the grand scheme of it, basketball is all about your seeding in the NCAA tournament, how you do an SEC play. You don't know much about how this team's going to gel, but I was very interested when he come out and was talking about his team, and he was really even talking highly about Isaiah Seeley. So when you're talking about your 8th, 9th, 10th guy down on the bench, I think this is going to be a really exciting team to watch this fall.
100%. This question here is: Hot Springs attendance was lackluster. Was it a failure to promote or fan base apathy? I wondered the same thing because, I saw some clips from it. I kind of wondered, outside of like a few days leading up to it, I didn't hear that much talk about the Hot Springs event. So it's something that who really knows at this point. I will say that I hope for better turnouts for the early and midweek games for this team that we didn't see last season. It shouldn't take until conference season for people to show up for Monday or Wednesday night games or whatever the case may be. But this team, from the bits of practice that I've watched, that they've put out there, it's refreshing to see Coach Cal. Like, there was one that we got a rebound off a miss, and the guard was running it up the court. And yes, he was pushing it up the court, but he doesn't want that. He wants the guards kicking it out. He's getting these guys to really not slow it down, but realize what they're doing. Get the ball out of their hands, move. It's kind of refreshing to see because, he talks to DJ Wagner, the same way he's going to talk to Malik Thomas or Darius Acuff. And it's good to see. I didn't expect Acuff or Malik Thomas to come in here and just immediately be a starter. They earn their spots, and he's talked about that. So I also enjoyed, I'll play here, the slight challenge for Trevin Brazil he has for this season. Because right here, what he's about to say is 100% of Trevin Brazil does these things, and I'm not saying he needs 4 to 5 blocks per game, but if Trevin Brazil got 2 blocks per game, and what he says here, then Trevin Brazil would be a first-round draft pick.
Yeah, you saw it. He smiled. I walk in, and I say, finally, I can see you smiling. I've never seen your smile. I want him to have a ball playing. Listen, he should be a double-double with 4 to 5 blocks every game. And if he's not giving us what he's capable of giving us.
Yeah.
Straight challenge right there.
I think that's good. I think it's time. We've seen the ebbs and flows of Trevin Brazil's career here at Arkansas. And that's the one thing you didn't see out of Musselman. This is a push. Dude, this is your last chance to get into the league. This is your last chance to really raise your stock and leave your legacy at Arkansas. He's been a fan favorite. You kind of like what you hope Devo Davis would have done is stay at Arkansas and finished out his career and been able to leave where he started. So we come in and, again, the last man chosen for the team, because we thought there for a minute he was out.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see what he can do. This is, his team to navigate. Let's see what type of Trevin Brazil we see. Hopefully he's not still, worried about getting hurt, cautious about that. So I'm, again, very excited to see the length, the not getting out rebounded every game. You have size down low, you have depth. That's what I'm looking forward to the most. When you look at this non-conference schedule, we're going to know exactly who this team is come SEC play, because they have a brutal non-conference schedule.
Mm-hmm. And this is what I feel like non-conference schedules should be like, is the Elite Eight from last season playing each other. And that's exactly what we're seeing. You've got to be ready early. So I'm here for it. I'm excited to see it. He was asked in the SEC media days also what it was like, to come in with the team with no roster and then have a successful run at the NCAA or through the NCAA tournament. And then, like he said, they started off conference 0-5. So I think in this boat in this year, you've got to start off better. I know they picked Arkansas to finish 5th in the SEC this season. Once again, the SEC is deep. We'll see what happens with Auburn, with Bruce Pearl not being at the helm anymore. It's one of those things that I'm ready to see it. I would like a successful SEC conference season schedule, whatever, to get them prepared for the NCAA tournament. I'd rather not wonder what team we're going to see in the NCAA tournament. I'd like to know who they are beforehand.
Yeah. And before we wrap things up, got a couple of things I want to share. On Sunday's show, we will have Peyton Dunn of the Pigpen Collective on the show. I know everybody's been following this. Peyton's been all over the news, all over the airwaves, been on podcasts. So really looking forward to having him on Sunday at 6:35 to talk to us about this new fan collective NIL that they are starting. It's good at the ins and outs. This is something that a lot of fans would probably wish they could do or knew how to do it. So having him on to talk about that on Sunday is going to be a treat. So everybody be sure to tune in on Sunday for that. And then also, before we go, I wanted to give another shout out to the Derek's Outlaws, a good friend of mine, Cody Tedford. They are currently still in first place. Let me get the screen pulled up, shared. You see they're currently in first place with Lebanon High School in Oregon. If you've seen a picture of both fields side by side, glaring difference of why Derek's needs this. So you have until the 24th to vote. You can vote once a day. So head over to the Fan 5G Friday Night Lights, Derek's Outlaws. Follow us on. We've posted the QR code on our page where you can vote and we want everybody to vote every day for them because you talking about some big names. Jeff Foxworthy, you had John Gruden, Houston Nutt. Cody is pulling out all the stops and getting everybody possibly Ozark alumni, graduated a year after me. So anything we can do to help them out, to spread the word. If you haven't heard about the Derek's Outlaws and their quest to win the $1 million stadium renovation, you haven't been watching much news or anybody on social media. So they've been everywhere.
Yeah, this is something that I didn't realize that it was going as long as it was. So definitely don't take your foot off the pedal.
Yeah,
keep going
because they closed the gap there. I mean, yesterday it was
Mhm.
like they closed it within. It was like a good, comfortable lead, and then Lebanon, somebody leaked it and said they announced it during the Oregon football game, and the gap closed to like 40,000 votes. So, if somebody is listening, I don't know, because we're not good stand, but anybody in the university that's willing to listen, give them a shout out during the game. I think that'd be a cool thing to do to really promote that everybody is possible. Go on there, vote, email. All you have to do, multiple emails, multiple votes. Every day you can vote.
Somebody sneak a sign into the game so you can
There
get
we
it on
go.
ESPN.
Yeah.
I think that'll
And
work.
then while you're doing it, join the Pigpen Collective. They said $1 a week is the lowest subscription. So their hopes of signing their first athlete, and their goal, what they projected, could be $1 million worth of NIL coming in. So I think it is very cool that somebody is stepping up, because you hear all the time of, man, I want to do this and that. So for him to step up, get this going, it's legit. They're following all protocols. So two big things going on here in Arkansas with the Derek's Outlaws and then the Pigpen Collective. So Adam, you got anything else?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, that will do it for another episode of the Hog Talk podcast presented to you by FanDuel. We appreciate all of our sponsors, all of our listeners. Want to thank Travis Brown for jumping on again, and we will catch you on Sunday.